From Nutrien Ag Solutions, this is Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, February 8th, 2021. Got the video style forecast here with it being Monday morning, but I don't have that much for you. It's going to be a lot of the same as we head through the next 5 to 7 days, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel if you're hoping to get out of the deep freeze here across the Canadian Prairie. But here it is as we take a look at the infrared satellite picture. So what we're seeing here are the cloud top temperatures being reflected back to us, and in some cases, we're seeing very cold ground temperatures being reflected back to us on the satellite picture, and that is what you're seeing across a big chunk of Western Canada. You got some cloud cover here, and then some cloud cover kind of wrapping around the backside of the area of low pressure across that region. But these green colors surrounding that purple shading, that is just simply bitter cold ground being reflected back on the infrared satellite picture. So that's the pattern, the flow of the jet stream coming around this trough across Western Canada, just continuing to pump cold air into the region and beyond that down into the central United States. Cold, dry air, though, across the region, so no snow being picked up on the radar this morning. We may have the chance for some very light flurries at times as we head through the rest of the week, but generally we're talking about more of the same. Cold, bitterly cold Arctic air, it simply doesn't hold that much water vapor, and we need water vapor to produce snow. Additionally, when we're advecting a lot of cold air into a region, that's not really a setup that's going to be producing a lot of vertical upward growth within the atmosphere, and of course, that's that vertical motion that we need to produce cloud cover and precipitation as well. So pretty much everything stacked against us getting significant precipitation, significant snow into the Canadian Prairie. So that I just talked over was a look at the NAM model showing us the next 84 hours, taking it into Thursday evening with no organized snow forecast across the region. Then I'll take an expanded look a little bit deeper here with the European model. We'll take this into Thursday night as well. And again, you see high pressure parked over the region, keeping things cold and dry, with all the snow being kind of pushed down here across the Pacific Northwest into the northern Rockies and then down into the central plains of the U.S. and then eventually the Midwest. So here's a look at the entire week's snowfall, or I should say the entire work week's snowfall. And again, we can continue to see this dry corridor across the prairie provinces here, across the ag belt of the prairie provinces. A little snow possible across far northern portions of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. But as we look at the ag belt here, along Highway 16, along Highway 1, we're talking about very little, if anything, in the way of snowflakes flying across the region. In fact, we'll take it all the way out through the next 15 days with the European ensemble picture, and still we see this snow hole here across the Canadian Prairie down into the northern portions of the northern plains here in the U.S. And then zooming out, looking at the next 15 days precipitation anomaly, we can see where we are active. And again, when we kind of draw in the jet stream picture here, coming around the base of that trough and then zooming off here across the southern U.S. into the northeastern U.S., it makes sense then that a lot of the snowfall we're seeing over the next 15 days is going to be found across the Pacific Northwest into the northern and central Rockies, and then across parts of the Midwest, the Ohio River Valley, with active weather and showers and storms across the Gulf Coast and the southeast U.S. And again, that leaves the Canadian Prairie into the northern plains. It also leaves the southwest United States as really the two dry spots across North America as we head through the next 2 weeks. So here's the background state. As we get all the way out to days 10 to 15, again, not changing a whole lot. We continue to see this big trough anchored here from the Arctic down through Western Canada, flow coming over the top of a ridge in the Pacific, down around the base of that trough. That leaves it cold, and it leaves it dry across the Canadian Prairie as we head into the next 2 weeks, though some moderation is likely here as we get into the very end of February, getting into the very beginning of March. We'll start to pull back from some of this extremely anomalously cold and maybe trend toward just a little colder than average, which still the middle part of February across the Canadian Prairie, that's not going to be any warmer. And then again, we just kind of overlaid the precipitation pattern with the picture there on the left, the temperature anomalies, and again, active where we see the jet stream kind of coming through these regions here, and that again avoids the Canadian Prairie. So again, I've got a pretty quick forecast here. Even though we're talking about the pattern over the next 2 weeks, it really does not change that much, although we will see a slow warm-up here as we get into next week. Calgary, looking at a warm-up all the way to high temperatures right around -5 as we get into next week. So there's that to look forward to. Still not climbing above freezing. Very similar look here in Edmonton. Saskatoon from highs around -25 this week all the way to -15 next week. Same story in Regina. And then we'll look at things in Winnipeg off to the east, really, much the same. High temperatures around minus 25 as we head through the work week into this weekend, climbing subtly to those highs right around, the negative teens as we get into early next week. Lows still around minus 20. So there it is. There's your pattern. I hope you have a wonderful Monday and a great start to your week. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.